Ladies and gentlemen, it is I, Hidden Flame, and we are back for another edition of my Final Fantasy timeline. First of all, I do want to apologize for the delay of this video. Things in my life have been a little hectic, and I have not been able to sit down and finish this as quick as I wanted. But here we are now, finished, and this next video, just so you all know, throws my entire timeline into a giant mess. Here's why. If you guys have been following this channel and you have seen all of my other videos, you will realize that I have come to the conclusion that the timeline is 3, 1, 2, 4, 5, 9, 15, 10, 6, 7, 8, 13, 12, 11, and 14. 12, 11, and 14 mix and match with the Tactics era. That was until I played Final Fantasy IX. Oh, Final Fantasy IX, how I hate you so. I had everything completed, almost everything set, until you came along. I kid, in all honesty, 9 is actually a really decent Final Fantasy game. It only suffered from the issue that it would not end. There was a total of, I want to say, 4 or 5 final bosses. But I'm not going to go over the game besides what I do in my points here. So there is no spoilers of the story, but there are spoilers for my connections. So I warn you now, there will be spoilers for certain things. Not everything. So here we go. Okay, so Final Fantasy IX. I have found a bunch of connections in this game. They are as follows: Final Fantasy I, Final Fantasy II, Final Fantasy III, Final Fantasy IV, Final Fantasy VI, Final Fantasy VII, Final Fantasy 13-3. The first major connection I am going to do is Final Fantasy I, for there are multiple connections to Final Fantasy 9 through 1. The first major connection is Garland. He is the main villain in Final Fantasy 1, and he is a tertiary villain in Final Fantasy 9. Another major connection is the location Mount Gulag, which is a volcano. Shows up in both 9 and 1, and it has the exact same music in each game. The next, or third, connection between 1 and 9 comes from the fiends. In Final Fantasy 1, you had the 4 fiends: Lich, Kraken, Tiamat, and Lilith. In Final Fantasy 9, all 4 are still there, but they are also called the Guardians of Chaos. Now, in Final Fantasy 1, Garland becomes Chaos. Okay, there is one final connection, and that is with the character Garnet, or Dagger. Her real name is Sarah. Now, she is Princess Sarah, and in Final Fantasy 1, there was at the very beginning of the game, you rescue Princess Sarah from Garland. According to the Final Fantasy Record Keeper, Princess Sarah is a white mage. In Final Fantasy IX, she is a summoner who has white mage abilities. Is this a connection? I'm not quite sure. Now, I could easily stop here and say that Final Fantasy IX comes after Final Fantasy I, but I need to put a little bit more proof into this. So if you don't want anything spoiled for Final Fantasy IX, please skip ahead. So, Garland talks about the sacrifice of 4. This could refer to the Warriors of Light and how they did all this work to stop him and Chaos and go back in time to their normal time, and no one knows this. So they won, they fought everything, and then no one knows about it. Garland also mentioned that he tried to use force to kill the warriors, or just everyone in general, and failed. But that is for all the connections that I have found in Final Fantasy 1 to Final Fantasy 9. Now, for the other ones. The next connection I found comes from Final Fantasy 2. Dagger, or Garnet, whichever you want to call her, meets up with Ruma, the god of, or the summon of thunder. And he explains to her the story of a hero, in which he explains the events of Joseph from Final Fantasy II, where he helps the team get into the ice cave, fight the Adamantos, and then is betrayed and killed. So, even if, as some people have said, that this is a multiverse, Ruma has to have known this happened. So, this means that 9 comes after 2. The next connection is sort of a small one. In Final Fantasy III, there is something called the Moogle Mail System, in which the Moogles send messages from NPCs to the player. Now, in Final Fantasy IX, again, the mail is delivered by Moogles, but they are sent from one Moogle to another. That's pretty much all there is to that one. So the mail is delivered in 3 and 9 by Moogles. Whatever. Nothing that I can really say it says, hey, it comes before or after, but cute little Easter egg. Oh, I can't forget that it is also in Final Fantasy XIV. The next connection comes from Final Fantasy IV. In Final Fantasy IX, at the very end of the game, you can find a weapon for Freya. It is her ultimate weapon. It's called Kane's Spear. The description of the spear says, and I quote, "a spear from the distant past." So this means in the Final Fantasy IX universe, Kain Highwind did exist. So 9 comes after 4. We have a second connection that also comes from Final Fantasy IV. In 4, you speak with Fusoya, and he speaks of how his people are in slumber, in waiting until the right moment to come out to the people. In Final Fantasy IX, Garland says the exact same thing about the people of Terra, how they are also asleep and they're waiting for a specific time. Though that specific time I will get to in just a moment. Okay, Final Fantasy VI doesn't really have much of a connection except the summons. There are a bunch of summons in 9 and 6 that have the same names, like Finir and the like, who only show up in these 2 games. Whether that's a connection or not, I don't know. I just something happened to notice. Okay, so the final connection I have is a tough one. We'll start with the one in 13 before we get to the one in 7, and I'm putting them together because of a theory I have. In Final Fantasy 13.3 that is, or Lightning Returns, whichever one you want to call it, Lightning is gathering souls to try to save them from the coming apocalypse. Upon winning the day, she takes the souls to a new planet. Okay, I just spoiled 13.3 for you, but apparently no one likes that game, so doesn't matter on this one. In Final Fantasy IX, Garland says the people he is bringing are souls waiting to get new bodies. Garnet and company is trying to stop this from happening, but the souls are still waiting to be brought to life via the Cycle of Souls. Now, the Cycle of Souls in 9 is when someone dies, they get reincarnated and come back as someone else. What Garland is trying to do, he's trying to take souls from one group, put them into the collection that is when people die, his souls get put into new bodies. So he's trying to stop the people of 9 from being reincarnated, so his group can be brought into the into 9's world. Now, it is also mentioned that the Cycle of Souls is also in 7. When you speak with Red's grandfather, he speaks of how when people die, or if anything dies, their body gets put back into Gaia, or the live stream, or whatever you want to call it, and reborn on the other side of the world, or again, reincarnated. So what's stopping anyone from thinking that Garland was around when Lightning was around? What is saying that he isn't trying to help Lightning or the god, I'm never going to pronounce his name, or even Fusoya, because all of this works around my theory. And yes, I brought Fusoya back in. Now, with all those connections in, here is my theory. Okay, so in Final Fantasy XIII, Lightning is collecting her souls, doing all of her stuff to try to save her planet. She gains all the souls and goes off to the new planet in hopes that they can colonize it and start a new life. The problem is, when they get to this new planet, it's already inhabited, but the people are inferior to when it comes to magic, when it comes to technology. So, one of them leaves the group while the rest go in slumber. This person is Cecil and Golbez's father from Final Fantasy IV. When they grow older, Cecil and Golbez somehow reach the moon and learn about the information that they are part of this group, or half-blooded of these groups. Fusoya explains everything, how their group left their dying world and are now on a mission to leave their stasis to try and live with everyone else. But the only issue is their souls, and they don't have a way to do anything. Seeing Kulia, which is Cecil's father, and Fusoya wake up from stasis, another person also decides he wants to wake up from stasis, and his name is Garland. Garland goes down to the planet and goes to Cornelia Castle. He sees Princess Sarah there. He falls in love at first sight, and decides to become the finest swordsman in the land. When he gets into the good graces of the king and learns that Sarah is not with a betrothed or not have any suitors, he decides to kidnap her. He also finds that she has a magical lute that would allow him to go back in time. Thus starts his plan to get the people that is in stasis into the world. So he goes back in time to try and kill everyone who is on the planet so that they could be reincarnated. Thus the cycle of souls will happen. But due to some interference with the Warriors of Light, this doesn't happen. But due to the paradox how if they killed him in the past, he couldn't have gone back in time in the first place, and thus the events of one happen, but they don't happen. But the elemental fiends are still around. They had sent him to the future and to the past, so he decides to go traveling. He finds what I'm calling the Alpha Crystal, the very first crystal, with all the knowledge that he had imbued into it from the very first when he originally went back in time. So the crystal was still there. It is the mother crystal of all other of the elemental crystals. In all the games, you had the earth, fire, wind, and water. In 4, you had the dark crystals. This is the knowledge that comes from that crystal. After holding this crystal, he learns of all the things that he has done in the past and realized force will not work. So he tries something else. He learns of the cycle of souls, where when people die, they come back to life in being reincarnated. So, in Final Fantasy IX, he decides to take the souls from in stasis, bring them down to the planet, and put them into the reincarnation tree, I guess. Thus preventing anyone who has already died from being immediately reincarnated. But his group will be first. But due to interference from Zidane, which is a created vessel that was made to help souls come to this world in a different way, and Princess Garnet or Princess Sarah from Cornelia, which is now become Castle Alexandria, his plan is stopped. But the souls are still in the quote-unquote system, so they will all immediately be reborn, but not as the same way as originally was supposed to. When you die, you're immediately reincarnated. No, you got put in the queue, and you will eventually get reincarnated. So this knowledge was put into books or scrolls or whatever it is, and it eventually gets to Red's father or grandfather in Cosmo Canyon down the line, in hopes that the knowledge is preserved for future generations. So as I said before, Final Fantasy IX completely ruins my timeline. So, with all the information that I have, and that I have recently gained, here is what I have. So I apologize if it changes my timeline, but 9 put a wrench in my system, into my theory. So, looking at this real quick, at the very top is my original timeline. Now, looking at the bottom here, it shows what has happened after I played 9. Now, the very top line, Final Fantasy 13, 2, 4, 1, 9, 7, and 10. That is my current timeline. That is the ones I have officially sanctioned as what's going on. And I explained everything. I'm adding 10 at the end because the spheres, the dress spheres, the comm spheres, they are just like materia. Just another use of them. What happened after that, if you look at the third line, 12, 11, and 14, that is still part of the Evilise era, and that is at the end of the timeline. But that also displaces 3 and 8. Those two are connected via Hein. The Sorceress Hein, the God Hein, whatever you want to call them. But this also kicks out 6 and 5 from my timeline. I have to figure out where those two go. So, between now and the next time I post something, unless somebody gives me some help in the comments below, which I would appreciate, and I have to do a lot of research into figuring out where those two go. Now, before I do another video, I need to inform everybody that yes, I know about the multiverse theory, okay? How all games are its own universe. That is not the point of what I'm trying to do. What I'm trying to do is find every single little Easter egg, even if, no matter how minute or slap in the face blatant it is, I am trying to make the timeline as I see it. Now, you can continue to say, it's a multiverse. They're all their own things. Yeah, fine, sure, whatever. This is something I have been trying to do for the last 2 years. You're not going to change the fact that I am doing it. And if you've gotten this far in my series and still think this, that's fine. That's your opinion. But I'm noticing trends. So please try to keep stop doing this is a multiverse, there's multiple universes, whatever. That's not going to stop me from doing it. So for those of you who are continuing to join me on this journey, please leave your information down in the description or the comments, and we'll talk. I reply to all videos, to all comments in the videos as I can. So just keep an eye on next, guys. I'm gonna have another video, I'm hoping soon, but if not, please check out my other channel, Flame Inc. Live. I am going through all of the Final Fantasy games. I am currently up to 12, and I will be playing 15. So I will try to get that game into my timeline. I just have to figure out where it's going to go. Someone told me before 13, someone told me after 8. I have to figure that one out. But for now, guys, I want to thank you all for coming out, watching the video. Please, like I said, leave feedback. Let me know what you think about this latest kerfuffle in my timeline. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I hope to see you next time. Till then, have a good night, stay safe, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.